What's new from Apple? There's the new iPhone 16 Pro, built for Apple Intelligence. And it comes with the all-new camera control, giving you an easier way to quickly access your camera tools. The new Apple Watch Series 10 has our biggest display and our thinnest design ever. And this? It's the sound of active noise cancellation, now available on one of 2 new AirPods 4 models. So quiet. Check out all of the new products and new features at apple.com. You can even buy yourself something new. See apple.com for product availability updates. Apple Intelligence coming this fall.
Your teen requested a ride, but this time not from you. It's through their Uber teen account. You drive your teenager around, a lot, to their friend Jacob's house, their other friend Jake's house, to James's, to Jaden's, to Jalen's, to...
Mom? This is Jake's house, not Jacob's.
Now with an Uber teen account, your teen can request a ride under your supervision. They'll ride with a highly rated driver, and with live trip tracking, you'll follow along the whole ride to their friends' houses that all sound the same. Add your teen to your Uber account today. See app for details.
Bye, Mom.
Thanks for listening to the Red Treehouse, where I tell scary stories to keep you up at night. You can listen to the Red Treehouse on your favorite streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a 5-star review. You can follow the Red Treehouse on social media, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, Threads, and Facebook at Red Treehouse Pod. And now you can find the Red Treehouse on Patreon. Join the Red Treehouse community for as little as $3 per month and receive exclusive member benefits, including personal shoutouts, early access to episodes, bonus episodes, and more. Simply go to patreon.com/Red Treehouse. As always, if you have a scary story or topic you'd like me to feature on an upcoming episode, email redtreehousepod@gmail.com. Important note, sources for this episode can be found in the show notes. The Red Treehouse is dedicated to my dad. I love you, Pop. Some of my favorite episodes of the Red Treehouse are the Scary Games episodes, and I'm not the only one. To date, we've explored over a dozen scary games over the course of 4 episodes, with each scarier than the last. And these are among the most popular Red Treehouse episodes as well. I suspect it's a combination of factors, at least for me anyway. Part intrigue. Do these games actually work? Part apprehension. What happens if these games actually work? And part fear. What do I do if these games actually work? In this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're going to explore 2 more scary games to play in the dark. The Cemetery Dirt game and the Bath game. Both are scary in their own ways, but where one requires you to go outside of your personal space, the other brings the terror into your own home. Is it possible these rituals open a portal to a paranormal and supernatural world, one inhabited by potentially malevolent spirits whose goal is to come into our world and never leave? I'll share the details. You decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Welcome to the Red Treehouse. As far as scary locations go, there are few that incite more fear than a cemetery. But if you're one of the brave souls, or even if you're not, who aren't too bothered, then this game, or should I say this ritual, is for you. Our first game is called the Cemetery Dirt Game. It's important to note there are a few items required to play the Cemetery Dirt Game. First, only one player is allowed to play at a time. Next, you'll need one blindfold, preferably cloth. You'll also need a small plastic bag, preferably a zip-top bag. You'll need a flower. You'll need to find a cemetery. And you'll need to come up with a cleansing ritual. Once you've gathered these items, you're ready. Here's how to play. First, begin the game at any time. An important note, though you can play at any time of the day, it is highly recommended that you play at night. Once you've figured out a time, then go to the cemetery of your choosing. Make sure to bring the small plastic bag and the blindfold with you. Once you're at the cemetery, find a grave. It is better to choose a freshly occupied one if available. Once you've chosen the grave, collect a small handful of dirt and place it in the small plastic bag. Once you've done this, leave the cemetery and take the small plastic bag with you. Remember, this is called the Cemetery Dirt Game. So while you start out in a graveyard, the ritual is not conducted there. Once you've left the cemetery, there are additional steps. First, find somewhere, not in the cemetery, and place the dirt you collected on the inside of the blindfold. An important note, the dirt should be spread on the side of the blindfold that will directly touch your eyelids. Once you've done this, place the blindfold on your face. Be sure to close your eyes, and be sure to tie the blindfold around the back of your head. Once you've done this, just sit and wait and breathe. What do you see? It's said that placing the dirt on the blindfold opens a portal to the spirit world, and that once you place the blindfold over your eyelids, you gain a sort of sixth sense that allows you to peer into the spirit world and possibly make connections. Closing the ritual is super important, as it closes the door to the spirit world. Here's how. First, reach behind your head and carefully untie the blindfold. Then, remove the blindfold. An important note, it's important to try not to lose too much dirt from the blindfold itself. Once the blindfold is removed, tie it into a knot with the dirt still inside. Then, wash your face. Once you've done this, perform the cleansing ritual of your choosing. Then return to the cemetery you gathered the dirt from. This time, bring the flower and the dirt tied in the blindfold. Once at the cemetery, return to the specific grave you gathered the handful of dirt. Then, untie the blindfold and place the dirt back onto the grave. Once you've done this, place the flower on top of the grave and offer your apologies for disturbing the deceased's grave. Then, leave the cemetery with the blindfold in hand. Once out of the cemetery, burn the blindfold to ashes, or bury the blindfold at a location you will never go back to. After you've done this, perform the cleansing ritual one more time. Then, be sure to never return to the cemetery or the place where you buried the blindfold. Something interesting. This is the easy version of the cemetery dirt game. And while this one takes a bit of courage, the harder version is not for the faint of heart. Here are a few adjustments you can make to challenge yourself. First, when choosing the grave to gather dirt from, choose one belonging to a person known to have done something terrible in their life. Then, wear the blindfold for as long as possible, even if you see or hear something scary. After removing the blindfold, keep the door to the spirit world open. Do not go back to the cemetery. Do not place a flower at the grave. Do not return the dirt to the grave. And do not perform the cleansing ritual. If you choose to return the dirt to the grave, place it as far away as possible. This will ensure the spirit shows up when you least expect it. For many of us, one of the most relaxing places on earth is a bathtub. After a long day at work, there are few things better than pouring a hot bath, resting warmly, and letting the world around us slip away for a short time. We rarely, if ever, think a bathtub could be the scariest place on earth. Until now. Our second game is called the bath game and originates in Japan. Part summoning ritual, part hide and seek, part red light green light. The bath game, also known as Daruma-san, is one of the scariest out there. The only setup needed for this game is to find a bathroom with a bathtub. Here's how to play. First, begin the game at night, ideally just before going to bed. Next, fill the bathtub with water and turn the lights out. Then, climb into the tub and sit down facing the faucet. Close your eyes and begin washing your hair. As you wash your hair, repeat these words. Daruma-san fell down. Daruma-san fell down. An important note. You must repeat these words until you have finished washing your hair. It is important to keep your eyes closed at all times. If you have done this correctly, your mind's eye will show a Japanese woman standing in a bathtub. Out of nowhere, she slips and falls, landing face first on the faucet and hitting and gouging her right eye. At this point, listen carefully and closely. Do you hear or feel any movement behind you? If so, you must not turn around or open your eyes. Instead, say aloud, "Why did you fall in the bathtub?" Once again, listen carefully and closely. Then, with your eyes closed, stand up carefully and get out of the tub. An important note. Do not slip and fall, and do not drain the water from the tub. After you've done this, exit the bathroom with your eyes closed and shut the door behind you. Once you've left the bathroom, you may open your eyes. Then, get in bed and go to sleep. An important note. You must leave everything as it is. Do not turn on the lights. Do not open the bathroom door. And do not drain the water from the tub. Now, the chase begins. Wake up at your usual time. As soon as you open your eyes, the game begins. Go about your normal day. It is likely you will feel someone or something behind you. You will turn to look, but nothing and no one will be there. However, if you do glance over your right shoulder, it is possible you'll see a glimpse of Daruma-san. Her hair will be jet black and tangled, and she will be missing one eye. Throughout the day, she will try to catch up to you. It is important that you do not let her. If she gets close, shout "stop" and run away. Remember, you must not let her catch you. Here's how to end the game. If you catch a glimpse of her over your right shoulder, shout, "I cut you loose," while swinging your arm down in a chopping motion. If you did this correctly, she will disappear, and you are safe. If not, run. There are a few important notes to keep track of when playing this game. First, it is important to avoid water and dark spaces, as Daruma-san is fond of both. It's important that the ending be performed before midnight on the day the game starts. Failing to end the game will give her access to your dreams. The ending is far more difficult to accomplish than it seems. It must be done immediately upon catching a glimpse of her. Take too long, and she may hide, rendering your motion ineffective. And finally, if at all possible, avoid playing this game altogether, and definitely only play it once. While doing some research on the bath game, I was able to find an encounter one person had with Daruma-san. It was posted on Reddit from a deleted user, likely a throwaway account. Quote, "I have always been a paranormal enthusiast. I especially enjoy researching myths and urban legends. I find that I am a very hard person to spook. I've yet to find a horror movie that has actually made me feel fear. I do find Japanese horror to be terrifying, though. That, and real-life events like being kidnapped or followed. I decided to actually try one of the many ghost games I had read about online. I'm a major skeptic, and if it works, I would enjoy the thrill of being afraid. I only now realize what a mistake I have made. I follow a blog that I won't name to keep its anonymity, but its focus is horror. The poster often has master posts, one of which being a list of horror games. I decided to view it, and select the game which I find would frighten me the most out of the list. The game I selected is called the Bath Game. It is a paranormal ghost game that originated in Japan. Fantastic. It involves summoning a ghost that will follow you throughout the day. Last night before bed is when I decided I was going to do it. I reread the post in case I were to forget anything. I went over the rules again and again. I was ready. I waited until everyone in the house was asleep, as I live with 3 other people. I stripped naked in my room and peeped into the hallway to make sure no one would see me. And I stepped across the hallway and into the bathroom, which is directly across from my room, shutting the door behind me. I put the plug in place and turned on the faucet to the bath, and sat on the side of the tub waiting for it to fill before I turned off the tap and the light. The room was still slightly lit from the window, so I didn't have trouble making my way into the tub. I sat the wrong way. I was meant to face the faucet, so she would be behind me, but I sat the other way by accident. I shut my eyes and began washing my hair, while repeating the words, "The Rumasan fell down," as I was told to do. I never saw the mental image in my mind that I was supposed to apparently see. The one of the woman falling in the tub and impaling her eye on the tap. I didn't feel the movement in the tub from her rising out of the water. I guess from here on I knew it wouldn't work. I slightly laughed to myself at how stupid I was for even trying it in the first place. Since I didn't feel her presence, I didn't say the phrase, "Why did you fall in the tub?" I finished washing my hair, got out of the tub slightly feeling myself go off balance, and walked out of the bathroom shutting the door behind me. I then opened my eyes, and I felt like an idiot. I dried myself off, got dressed, and then went to sleep. That brings us to today. I woke up and felt the same way I normally do. Nothing was different. My mother told me she woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and drain the tub because I forgot to do it. I knew the rules were to only drain it the next day, but I didn't care. It hadn't worked, so I shrugged it off. My mother needed a few items from the store, so I volunteered to go for her. It was quite early in the morning. Kids were still on their way to school, and adults hadn't left for work. The streets were practically deserted. It was raining lightly, so I took an umbrella with me. As I left, I smirked remembering last night, and I looked over my right shoulder to see if there was truly anyone behind me. Nothing. Of course. I kept walking. As I reached the main road, the shops were just on the other side. There was no traffic, just as expected. It was hard to see from the rain that had picked up, but I could see someone standing on the other side of the road. White dress, long black hair covering the face. "Oh, come on," I muttered under my breath. It was such a classic thing to see in a Japanese horror film. Was someone fucking with me? She wasn't behind me, so it couldn't have been related to the game. Maybe it was just a woman who needed something from the store, just like I did. But she didn't move. At all. It was pouring rain by this point, and she stood in it facing the store that was just a small walk away before she would have had shelter. I stepped onto the road and slowly walked toward the store. She was out of the way of the path, so I just ignored her. I tipped my umbrella forward so I could block the view of her in front of me. When I made it to the store's entrance, I pulled my umbrella shut and looked behind me. Nothing. No one. What the fuck? Maybe she went around the corner. I continued on inside and focused on why I was there in the first place. When I had finished shopping, the rain had subsided. I walked the same route home. When you cross the main road, there's an alleyway, and then you are on my street. When I got to the entrance of the alleyway, I stopped dead in my tracks. In the middle of the walkway was the same woman from before, just standing in the middle, facing away from me. I knew better than to walk down there, so I turned and decided to go the long way around without taking the shortcut. When I turned onto my street, I was almost about to walk past the entrance to the alleyway when I noticed her standing right there. No longer in the middle. She was within hand's reach of me as I was walking along the pathway. I ran. I have never run so fast in my life. I didn't look back. And I had never been so afraid in my life. I got home, put the shopping bag on the kitchen counter, and ran to my room and shut the door behind me. I climbed into bed, and I'm assuming that I fell asleep. I awoke. I awoke to a woman standing on my bed with the sheet wrapped around her neck. The same woman from the street. One eye was visible on her face, the rest hidden tangled in her hair. Her eyes were large, and her mouth was slack-jawed. All I could manage to say was, "What are you doing?" Then, I awoke again. Which brings me to now. End quote. I don't know about you, but the bath game freaks me out more than most of the other games we've covered. The idea that we could summon a spirit in the bathtub, then turn around and go to sleep as normal, is pretty wild. Of all the aspects of the game, the turn off the light and go to bed as normal leaves me the most uneasy. What about you? Which game scares you the most? As we close this episode of the Red Treehouse, I'll ask the original question. Do you have the courage to play one or both of these scary games? If so, email your experience to redtreehousepod@gmail.com and I'll feature it in an upcoming episode. Is it possible these rituals open a portal to a paranormal and supernatural world? One inhabited by potentially malevolent spirits, whose goal is to come into our world and never leave. I've shared the details. Now you decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Thanks for joining me in the Red Treehouse.